last month. Joining us now is business correspondent Tracy Burns and economy strategist Newton Stacy. We're also joined again by our special guest, Melanie Collette. All right, Tracy, coming to you first. A solid jobs report, but a decline from April. Are you concerned?
Not concerned, but just we're all in this unsure phase, right? We have no real clarity. I think we've been hearing this for a while now. Considering, though, the consumer is holding on, we're seeing them trade down, though. We heard from Dollar Tree, Dollar General, Five Below. Those companies are doing just great. The higher end, maybe starting to see some pullback, more intentional buying out of the consumer. But Amex, MasterCard reporting that sales are steady. So if the consumer holds on, much like Peter Tuchman just said, if we can hold on and get through this until we get clarity out of the White House, we could potentially be okay.
I want to go back to the tariffs now. Francis, steel and aluminum are in many ways different things. When will prices on everyday goods start climbing?
Well, that's an interesting situation. So prices are correlated to a lot of things, not just tariffs. And one of the things that prices are correlated to is the M2 money stock. And that is remaining pretty steady after COVID, even though it's kind of switched from being fed by the Fed balance sheet to being fed by fiscal. So specifically, tariffs are going up in order for the President Trump to increase the revenues, because obviously we have a massive debt and deficit to service. And he thinks that this is going to be a one-time price adjustment. I think the reason that he has raised tariffs on steel and aluminum is because he wants to start getting these products to be coming from America so that we're not codependent on other countries. And I think he's trying to readjust the manufacturing base. That being said, there is going to be a lot of recalibration in the system and some price increases in the interim. However, hopefully they are a one-time price adjustment and not devastating to the consumer.
Melanie, you're nodding along here.
No, absolutely agree with what she said. And then further, it's going to reinvigorate that steel industry that has been damaged for so long. So I think this is a very good idea. The tariffs are projected to bring in about $3 trillion with a T, $trillion in revenue. That is a very important factor. And that's one of the factors that things like the CBO reports don't take into consideration when they're doing their projections. So it's important to keep that in mind.
Okay. And Tracy, what will tariffs do to the job market as well? What are you seeing there?
Yeah, look, we're still seeing this, we can make a case for both sides kind of scenario going on right now. I'm still glass half full on this country. I always will be. And I always will be on the consumer as well, because we are industrious and we'll figure our way around this. But you are going to start to see some effect when we get clarity. Sadly, I still think we come back to that. We don't have any. Makes it very difficult for companies to plan, for families to plan. So until we get that, we're kind of moving in this so-called stock market purgatory, I would say, until we hear some solid numbers and some solid figures on tariffs, and then people can plan around them.
Francis, the president also said this week that we're at an almost perfect inflation. Now, I am not a finance person or economy person. I have no idea how that could even be a thing. Can you explain?
Well, the thing is that when prices go up, right, what we're measuring when we measure inflation is we're measuring the rate of increase. So we have all of the inflation that has already gone up baked into the system. And what the CPI is now showing is that inflation is continuing to increase at a much lower rate. And so that's what's going to give the Fed a reason to pause, despite the fact that Trump has posted on Truth Social that he really wants the Fed to lower rates. And that's because it's costing the federal government an absolute fortune in interest rates. And we have about 60% of the populace living paycheck to paycheck and paying those really onerous credit card interest rates just to get by. So Trump is trying to encourage him to lower rates. When you look at this jobs report there, it looks very great on the surface. There's some recalibration in the system, loss of federal workers, adding, healthcare jobs and kind of things with the tariffs. That's not going to settle out until we get certainty around tariff policy. Powell's not going to want to lower rates until we get certainty around a China deal. But that's kind of what's happening under the surface. So prices actually haven't dropped. Wages have gone up a little bit. But that's why Trump wants to lower rates, is because inflation's not getting out of control and he wants to give ease again to the consumer so we can keep them strong.
All right, Melanie, I did want to come back into studio with you, but we have run out of time near. Okay. But that's okay. We've had you in a lot, and we're going to bring you back a lot as well. You know that. So thank you, Tracy Burns, Francis Stacy, and Melanie Collette.
Thank you.